Let's introduce Miles real quick.
Yeah.
This is Miles Power. He has a website, and I want to defend him because I've talked to Miles Power before. He is a nice guy, and to be honest, I think he's just like one of these debunker YouTubers where he kind of like finds common narratives and he tries to like debunk them, show the science behind it. I know he's like an actual chemist. The guy's smart. So I saw him, and I think he found this story, and he's like, he sees sort of big pharma or big chemical getting picked on. And he's like, oh, well, there must be more to the story here. He goes and he reads the EPA report where they like.
I don't think he read it. There's no indication that he read it. It's not.
Yeah.
He didn't even link it. He just like.
Really?
Yeah. Mostly what he used, he has the only even scientific paper that he used was Tyrone Hayes's paper. Otherwise, there was the New York Times, Syngenta's website, and then a host of articles. If you just look through the hyperlinks, I'm not
He's
making
so
this
confident.
up.
Like
It's all shills. It's all shills. I have a tweet it's on my Twitter where I just show like 4 of these guys have conflicts of interest with agrochemical companies. Guys like Hank Campbell, John Entine. He didn't do his research. He also couldn't even like pronounce Hayes right. The whole time he kept saying Hales, He couldn't say hermaphroditic.
I think this is the tweet
hermaphrophilic.
you're talking about.
Oh, this is the beef tweets now.
Yeah. These are the beef tweets.
So look at that. Like Alex Avery, John Entine, Hank Campbell, Bruce Chassie. Go look. It's there. All 3 parts of his series. If you look through the hyperlinks.
Yeah,
it's those guys. It's Syngenta's website, and then the New York Times, which, by the way, in his series he calls a puff piece. Like
I know. Yo, can we put okay? I tweet. Can we see your tweet? Like
no, everything. So he made this video called "Is Atrazine Turning the Freaking Frogs Gay?" He made a 3-part thing, and he ended up concluding that. And this is where I depart with, because I like Miles Power. I told you guys. He did a whole video debunking, like he debunks like people like David Icke. There are people I think that legitimately should be debunked.
Well, he does good work.
He does good work.
The Holocaust deniers. But then when anytime he talks about a pesticide, and look, I'm not coming at from the angle of an activist, because I'm not, and I wasn't really even interested in pesticides or this topic that much before I looked into this, right? And I'm still on the fence about that, whether or not they should be banned. But he goes to bat to really defend them. Glyphosate. I'm not saying GMOs are, from what I know, GMOs are perfectly safe, but that's like anything that gets in the way of Monsanto or an agrochemical company.
Yes.
Miles Power is sure to go out of his way to defend them.
And Steven, I'm telling you,
I know he works in industry. He's a chemist who works in industry.
Correct.
So I guess he has his own bias, but I just think he should take his series down. I think that he's doing a massive disservice.
What's your case for that? What's your case for him taking his series down? Because he thinks I DM'd him. I said, hey, I'm having OKI on. What do you want to respond? And basically he and I also invited him on the show, and I invited him a little late, so I don't blame him for not showing up. I gave him like 8 hours notice. It wasn't that I should have given him more notice, but he was nice, and he said, look, I have no beef with Oki. He's got all the beef with me. And then he said, what'd he say? He goes, I'm going to disprove Oki's whole video. His whole video is going down.
Okay.
And he said he wants you to remove your video.
Beef.
Yeah.
So what's your case? What's your case for why he should delete his video? This is what I'm saying, guys. It's the gay frog beef.
He outright denies endocrine disrupting effects of atrazine. Pretty much, I sent you some links.
Yeah, you sent me a lot of papers about proving that it does happen. And I will say there is this weird like perspective in his videos that he's like, no studies have ever been done.
Pretty much.
That's
the only
pretty much to say like
come to from watching his series is that Tyrone Hayes is a charlatan. He even uses the word anti-science.
Yeah.
Come on.
Pretty much that Tyrone Hayes is this massive fool who's no different than the anti-vax guy, and that atrazine is pretty much safe enough to drink. That's the only thing that you the conclusion that you can come from. And it's not even based, like most of his series has to do with Tyrone Hayes' poor conduct. That's it. Really, that's what he's it's just a takedown piece.
And he couldn't even show any examples. He couldn't show any examples of Tyrone Hayes saying it or in a video. Like Tyrone Hayes in videos, always classy. I was worried. I was like, oh, he got him now. And then he always cuts the video.
Well, he showed the emails. He has some sketchy emails. It's true. It is true. But it is a hit. It is a hit piece because what he doesn't do is he doesn't show the other side of the story. He shows one side of the story, which is like he shows the EPA director saying, oh, he wouldn't share his data. He shows Tyrone Hayes' like lewd emails or whatever. But what he doesn't do is show the side of the story you show in your piece. Because I watched his videos and I left thinking, wow, Tyrone Hayes is this con man. Because he does say anti-science and you just go, oh, this scientist must be anti-science. I never saw actually evidence that he is anti-science. By all accounts, he is just a man of science his entire life. Like, I don't understand where he could have come to that conclusion. But
because he read PR articles written by Shills.
But he didn't give that other side of the story. That's what made me mad is that when I saw your piece, there's this stuff, for those of you who don't know, that came out where Syngenta is like writing down ways they can target and harass Tyrone Hayes. Yeah. For that not to be included in Miles Power's piece at all, and just go, he just sent these crazy emails. We don't know what could have whacked him out. He's just like this schizophrenic dude. And then for him to discredit, like Tyrone Hayes talks about death threats, and Miles Power goes, no, I think that's just total crap. Yeah. Well, maybe, but like, how can you just say it's total? You don't know.
Yeah. No.
So it is. I do see what you're saying. It is. I did see it, and I was like, "Well, this is one-sided." I love Miles Power. I think it's. I don't think you can. Like, I don't think you have to come to Tyrone Hayes' defense if you look at all the evidence. But I don't think he ever looked at the evidence on Tyrone Hayes' part.
It's definitely gray at best, and he's making it like this guy is terrible. It's maybe gray. Like, science is complicated. It's hard to understand. But this guy, I think Miles Power wants to get a job in corporate lobbying. Like, he's like that thank you for smoking
he could
guy
do it.
Where
he
I think
would be
what an easy jump for
doing it. And like I'm waiting for his response video to me, and it's just literally just gonna be like, Oki is a petulant child, and he look at his conduct on Twitter, and just like all this shit, and like, oh, he doesn't know what he's talking about. I'm a chemist, and it's like, dude, you're a chemist, you're not an ecologist. Fucking give me a break. Like, you haven't like he has an undergraduate in chemistry. I'm pretty sure. Don't quote me on that. So
I don't think he's a P. No, I mean,
he's trying to get a job.
Based on what? Based on what is he a PR guy?
That's what I think, dude. I was telling you, I dated a girl who worked in the sugar lobby, and in our personal life, like when we're on date, she's telling me, no, sugar is good for you. All that stuff about it causes diabetes, it's bullshit. It's not. It's actually really good for you. It gives you energy. I'm like, dude, talk to me as a human being. But they're brainwashed in.
No, but I think he really believes it, and I think that makes it a lot less. I think he's a sincere guy, is what I'm trying to say. I don't think he's a shell. Because Oki, you kind of think, well, maybe you're kind of on the fence about it, right? Whether he's a shell or not. I don't think he's a shell.
But I think for months, I was pretty sure that like he, and I mean, it's not uncommon for, bloggers, internet personalities, and YouTubers to shill for companies to put out PR. It's people like, I mean, there's such a huge audience on YouTube, and you get a guy with a decent enough following and good branding, and people respect him because he's a scientist. It's not unreasonable to think that maybe he could be paid to do or say certain things. But speculation, of course.
But you have to take into account that his whole channel is sort of debunking a wide range of issues.
I think it's more like that then. Yeah.
Yeah, I think if we charitably interpret his actions, which I think we should do, he just feels he's like probably in the chemical industry. He always sees these chemicals unfairly maligned and people don't actually understand what's going on, which it definitely happens. And so he sees the Tyrone Hayes case. He goes, oh, great. Another anti-science guy. Time to debunk this guy, right?
Yeah,
And to be fair, we don't know what his rebuttal is going to be. So I'd like to say,
I can't wait.
we're gonna wait for the rebuttal, I think. But
We'll review
as for
that.
right now, it seems like you've taken into consideration with your videos way more evidence. And on that note, I want to say, look, as someone who's done the video essay game, there's always something left on the cutting floor, something you wished you could have put in the video, and maybe you didn't have time.
Probably should have mentioned the emails. Yeah, I probably should have mentioned the emails. But it kind of, honestly,
Right.
there's the flow that I take into account in the videos, and
The emails of Tyrone Hayes to Syngenta.
You know
right?
that's crazy? I emailed the emails out of my brain even. In my head, I was like, I'm not even going to remember that part. The email, because Tyrone did send some inappropriate emails, didn't he?
at the same time, I thought it felt kind of irrelevant to the whole thing because it's about his science and it's about atrazine more so, and it's not about his personality. I think that
Yeah.
you got to disconnect that from this debate. You know, it shouldn't be about someone's conduct.
Look, he sent a
Especially
couple of
when-
emails, but the science is tight.
Even Berkeley, there was an ethics complaint that Syngenta put out to Berkeley, and they just were like, "Yeah, you guys are both in the wrong." After doing a review, you know, I don't know if you've ever seen videos of like Scientology PR people attacking people randomly and going to them on the street and just yelling vicious, crazy things in their face. This exists. There are people paid to do shit like that.
Oh,
know?
yeah. In America, baby, everything's possible. And these guys are paid to win, and you win it by any means necessary. So you always see it in the documentaries anyway. I don't know.
Yeah, I want to show you guys
There's a lot of
this
money on the
because
line.
this is what Miles Power's conclusion was. And I want to show people this so they can kind of understand. There is so much dismissal here. Looking back, the story about gay frogs is not really a story about outlandish conspiracies, sexually explicit, harassing emails, withheld research, unrepeatable results, gay bombs, or fully grown men dressing up as a homosexual amphibian. It's the story of how biased, poorly schooled, lazy journalists helped a man who cloaked his anti-science views in concern for the environment to become a professional victim. Like this is so much ad hominem, and there's no basis for that in his video. I've watched his videos, all three of them. I've read all his articles. I don't see that. Miles, I like you. I've enjoyed many of your other videos. I don't see this. And then he says to become a professional victim. Well, he kind of is a victim when you look at the Syngenta emails. They did try to assassinate his character. This is something that happens in industry-funded research in the scientific communities. I've seen it happen. On the one hand, we can't credulously believe every whistleblower because every whistleblower is not credible. But on the other hand, you can't just say, oh, yeah, he's a professional victim.
Here it says discredit Hayes. Like that's the first thing they have under science. Before it completes frog studies, it just says discredit Hayes under science, right?
Yeah.
How does Miles Power just ignore
Let's
this?
see
though?
this.
Oh, because he's probably a shill.
No. I'm not going to say that.
I think he's aspiring. I think he's aspiring shill, and he believes in it because I've met
he's
people
not
in
a
the
shill,
lobbying,
Amish.
and they believe in it. No, but I'm saying he does believe it.
This is where it says
I'm
discredit
talking about-
Hayes.
Under science,
Yeah.
by the way.
Monitoring.
You see that? That's like their plans for their science. Like how do we? And then the first thing is discredit Hayes instead of let's complete the frog studies first and see exactly what's going on. No, let's discredit this guy.
Like Miles Power just has so many videos deep on like pro like those big corporations that I think at this point he sees a story like this. Yeah, I mean, Steven, you were just saying this anyway, but like, yeah, he's basically just chosen a side and find any way to defend the argument.
Here's another thing I actually left out of my video. So here you can see how they're trying to really fuck with his mind here. So I'm just the last link I just sent you, I'm gonna read it. This is basically their assessment of him. Like, oh, how do we get to him, right? He's a bipolar manic depressive. He doesn't sleep. Grew up in a world that wouldn't accept him. He's scarred for life. He needs adulation. Reasons he hates Ron Kendall is the EPA guy at the time. I think I don't know what this is, but like Solomon's what does that say? Approached him. Students. Sorry, Solomon's students approached him. He, in quotation sign, manipulated. Should show his true colors. You know. And here's like the thing they're trying to say: academic terrorism. Pretty much. I'm not saying let's do this or let's call what he does academic terrorism, or maybe we should
Wow.
academic terrorism.
Wow.
Here's the one where they talk about him being a paranoid schizo. So they had someone sit in during a time that he met them, and he was fucking with them at this point, like openly. So in my interview I did with him, he talks about dressing up as Morpheus from the Matrix, and just when they're talking to him, because he's so fed up with it by this point, it's years of this. He just starts doing lines from the Matrix, right? So then they had someone one time when he was.
That's so funny, by the way. That's so rock and roll.
It's really funny, and so they had a psychiatrist sit in, and they commissioned that person to do an evaluation of him, and this is what they came up with. I just sent it. Paranoid schizo. You can see it there.
Wow.
Okay,
4 months of research.
Let me show it. Show it.
Tyrone Hayes, paranoid schizo and narcissist. If Tyrone Hayes involved in scandal, the environmental groups will drop him, basically.
That's right here.
Some of these.
If
really
Tyrone Hayes, TH is Tyrone Hayes. But anyway, the point is that they have this whole idea, and they like send people to follow them around. They do all this stuff. And look, I think, again, you can come to the conclusion that maybe Tyrone Hayes is wrong on the science if you want. But I don't think, well, I think you'd have to try pretty hard to do that. But I think Miles Power does, like, when in the narrative, to paint Tyrone Hayes as like this loon who is imagining harassment, who's anti-science. You only have to watch it. And I do think it is an unfair hit piece. And on that basis, I do think that Miles Power, if he's going to put up another video, might think of like taking it more seriously this time. Because last time it's clear that he didn't take it seriously.
That's a rip from the sheriff, baby. That's tight. Yeah, it's very true, man. How could he say that? It's like he ignored all of this. Like he ignored these notes of them being like, yeah, we're going to. There's a clip in your video at 22 minutes where it's a guy reading one of their emails, and it's like, destroy his reputation, all this stuff, like destroy his reputation, come after him,
go after his wife.
Go after his wife.
Investigate his wife.
Right, exactly.
Miles Power, where is your research on this?
I got to say about the Miles Power situation. I mean, if he does remove his video, though, and he comes out with some new evidence or something, is there anything you're going to find credible? Or do you think, I've looked at all the evidence, there's nothing he could pull out that would surprise me?
I have many ecologists that I've been talking to. This isn't okay. So if what he could say, what Miles Powers could say, is that there's an anomaly with what Hayes found, and maybe his hypothesis is sort of off, because Hayes, he found these effects at really, really low doses, like 0.01 parts per billion, right? And that's kind of an anomaly, right? But it doesn't completely discount his science. So if I was Miles, what approach I would take is say, hey, look, the science is kind of mixed, and that there needs to be more studies, and Tyrone Hayes was onto something maybe, and but look, the science isn't settled. He can use the same industry talking point that they used for climate change for the longest time. Still do. It's like, we need more further testing. Science isn't settled. That is a common tactic. But to behave like this guy is a charlatan and anti-science, it's just.
Is that why you would say you got so heated? Because you got much more heated than him.
Yeah,
you're going after him a lot on Twitter.
You ripped and dipped on him. You ripped and dipped on him.
Okay, well, to be honest, like, it was the day after I posted the video, and it was like after so many months of work. So I had a few drinks, and then
hey man,
I tweeted Miles Power is a shill after sending my video to him, being like, dude, your video's dog shit, dude. And then
that's so aggressive, though. You know that. It's so aggressive. It's too aggressive.
I know. Get this guy, though? You got to get him.
No, but how do you think someone's going to respond? Nobody's going to see your video's dog shit, and they're going to go, "Oh my gosh, you're right."
Well, yeah.
Miles is so aggressive though with his
It was a challenge. I wanted him to tell me what, like, go ahead, tell me why I'm wrong. It was kind of a challenge, but I deleted Miles Power as a shill almost immediately. He screen grabbed it, put it on Twitter. And it's like, OKI is calling me a shill or something. And then I'm like, dude, debate me, bro. Come, debate me. I just like, having more drinks, just kind of laughing about it with people too. And yeah, and he was like, no, I won't. And I'm like, because you're not prepared. You don't know anything about this topic. You cannot possibly debate me about it. and come out looking good. Like it's
So
not-
kung fu.
I will say something that I don't like. So I I will say you went aggressive, but then he did kind of like say this, which I thought was very unfair.
the pedophile thing.
Yeah, he goes,
I called him a nonce.
okay, I shoehorned me into his video, accused me of shilling for Sargenta, and publicly called me a pedophile. Now, when I saw that, I kind of went against you. I was like, well, that's way too much. That's too aggressive.
Okay.
So then I asked him to show me proof that you called him that. And it turns out you called him a nonce. Okay.
Which I thought meant silly. I thought
Well,
it was British.
it literally, I sent him a message because I looked up the meaning, and one of the meanings is a pedo. But then another definition in like the dictionary is like silly, stupid, idiotic. So I
That's what I
told
thought.
him like, hey, don't you think he probably means it in the latter sense of like, don't you think you're being as disingenuous as you're accusing him of being by taking it as like, oh, he called me a pedo, when it's pretty clear that you were trying to call him a dummy, right?
Pretty much, yeah. I was like, oh, you made a 3-part series, but you're not prepared to debate me.
Well, what I said is like,
and then I
there's
said
no reason he'd call someone a pedo. Like, there's like,
It makes no sense,
It
yeah.
makes no
Yeah,
sense in the
makes no sense.
context. I just want to clear that up because when he said that, at first I was like, immediately on his side, I was like, wow, that's way too far. And then I realized you didn't actually say that, and he was very in bad faith interpreting your motivations.
It's almost like his video series.
Well,
No, this was more discrediting for me. His video series, I got to the end and I almost believed him. I believed him a little bit
Oh,
because he's so
he's-
confident. He's so
Yeah.
aggressive. Then I
Yeah.
saw the tweet and I'm like, oh, he's crazy. If he's turning nonsense into like that guy called me a pedophile, it's like, oh, this guy's making stories in his head. He's a
Well,
kooky.
here's the thing that pissed me off about his series. Let me
but
explain.
he's from Britain
This
though,
whole-
and I think in British slang, nonce does mean pedo. So I think he interpreted it maybe it's just an English like a error in translation where you thought it was one thing, he thought it was another.
I thought it meant silly,
To
but
give
he's-
him the benefit of the doubt, maybe he thought that, but I think he should
don't
take that
know.
tweet down because it's pretty clear that you didn't mean that.
Yeah.
So, okay, so this is what pissed me off about his.
Yeah, it's understandable.
Because
People
the
are saying
whole-
it's understandable if he's British. That's kind of true. It's like I kind of get
whole-
where the miscommunication came from.
The whole point of my video is about trust and truth, and
Yeah.
you know, being able to access the right information, and also just the way that institutions lie and companies lie, and sometimes even scientists lie, and that's the whole point of the video. So this guy to me just seemed like another mouthpiece pushing the same disinformation, misrepresenting Hayes, misrepresenting his science in the exact same way that these industry defense people do. So I see it as a guy who, because he's a chemist and he has good branding and he seems legitimate, it's really easy for people to just trust him and not look into it again. So I wanted to call him out for what he did. And
Right, because you
That's
are
my issue.
correct that if you just watch those videos, you would think you knew the whole story. And your
Yeah,
point
I
is
thought so.
you don't know the whole story at all. There's so much more to this than meets the eye that he left out of his video.
I thought so, and I just watched Oki's video. So I literally watched Oki's video. It's an this. It's like one point of view. I watched this guy's video. I'm like, oh, he's right then. It's so convincing, and his branding is tight. He's like a scientist, everything. Like he's on top of that, but he's a master of not saying any evidence. It's kind of like a Fox News thing. I see them do it a lot, and MSNBC too. They'll just say they'll just say something as if it's fact and not reference anything else behind it.
yeah, well, he
Referenced an
used it-
EPA study, right? Like he referenced a couple studies, right?
But I show in my video like how deeply compromised that risk assessment was.
Yeah.
And like I pretty much show like how a lot of his points are just kind of they stem from the PR campaign that Syngenta had, right? So the whole idea that Ann Lindsay said that we've never seen his data. I just sent you links and I show in my video where they're talking about let's send her testimony. Does she have testimony? Did she will she talk to reporters? The whole idea of the EPA said that, and this is something Miles says, which is completely a falsehood, and I don't know where he got it from, and I'm pretty sure he got it from one of his shitty articles that he read. But this whole idea that the EPA said that Tyrone Hayes' study doesn't meet the criteria of legitimate scientific work. where the EPA never said that, and I challenge him to look through, because I actually read through the amphibian white papers. I read through the drafts, the scientific advisory panel discussions. I read through all of it. There is no one in the EPA or on the scientific advisory panel who said that Tyrone Hayes' study did not meet the criteria for legitimate scientific work. What happened in 2007 is because they didn't meet good laboratory practices that were put together by Syngenta and somewhat by the EPA, but it was Syngenta who handed in, because they put that criteria together. Every single study in the open literature wasn't considered quantitative. So if you want to spin that and say that it didn't meet the criteria for legitimate scientific work, well, then you're going to have to say that all of those other studies didn't either. Which is it's just a fucking lie. Well,
right, because then he turns around and goes, well, there's 7,000 studies that just prove that atrazine is
where
perfect.
Are they? Show me.
Yeah. Okay, so this is where I have to start agreeing with you a lot, because
also don't agree with me. Look it up yourself. Go read.
No, I'm just saying your account of events is a lot more compelling here, because what you're saying is true, that by defining it in a certain way, they automatically made Tyrone Hayes like, oh, he didn't meet laboratory practice or whatever. And then Miles Power goes, yeah, look at what a bad scientist he is. He's bad anti-science.
It has nothing to do with the quality of his science. It's because it didn't meet those protocols set up for that specific risk assessment.
Yeah, your interview with